Welcome all, Raymond for Stream Gamers. Today's video is about do you need to purchase high-level aircraft to be able to fly with people who fly with high-level aircraft. That's to say, can you do a cold and dark start here at the gate? Can you do the programming of the FMC? Can you import a flight plan from SimBrief into the FMC? Can you do all those things with a free aircraft, not using one of these paid aircrafts that lots of people, such as myself, also enjoy? I got to thinking about this, and I looked through all of the features, the core features of, let's say, for example, the PMDG aircraft, and I looked through those core features and said to myself, do I use them? Are there systems in there that I use? Well, I don't usually use Pushback, because I usually use an app called Toolbar Pushback. It's free, and it's a really brilliant pushback, and it suffices on a majority on all aircrafts that you fly, not just one specific one. And you don't have to learn multiple different versions. If I'm flying my A350, if I'm flying the PMDG 777, 737, any of those aircrafts, they're all different. And the 777s don't have pushback in 2024 either. So, anyways, and then the next thing is it worth spending the money? Are there features in there that the average simmer gets benefit of? And so this is an effort to kind of go through that and explain where some of the differences would be. I will not bring up a 737, a PMDG 737 in here, well, because it doesn't work in 2024. The 777-300ER doesn't work in here. Granted, the 200 does, and so does the freighter. 777 freighter works great. The A350, init build A350, fantastic aircraft, works great. But for me, they're $100 aircraft. And yeah, do I need to spend the money? Should you spend the money? So, without further ado, let's see, can we fly with some level of exactness in a already given to us aircraft because we already possess the sim? Can we do that? We have a flight plan set up here. Here's my SimBrief flight plan. We are United 1966 as always. Dallas Fort Worth to Phoenix. We won't be flying the flight. We'll just be setting ourselves up and seeing, can we do this? All right, let's get inside the plane. First things first, let's go up here. You're going to see some similarities. Now, granted, the 737-800, 700, the overhead panel is different slightly than the Max, because this is a Max, right? So there are some features that are in here that are not in those Payware aircraft, but you still put your battery on and your emergency lights on, so you still do that. You still turn on your half fuel pump just to turn on your APU. You still do that. You can and should go down here and flip some lights and switches on. For those that are exacting simming pilots and seeing me do things in an incorrect order or incorrect in as a whole, happy to point it out to me. I think it's great. So go ahead, point it out in the comment section. While you're down there doing that, I would appreciate a like, comment, subscribe. That would be great. Shows me that I'm in the right direction and I've provided content that is useful. Okay, so we're gonna let our APU start up. We're gonna go back to the overhead. For those people that are wondering how I switch views across like I am, this is your IRS alignment, which is the same whether you have a PMDG or whether you have an Asobo built 737 Max, right? You still do that. But for those that are wondering, I've assigned various different keys that allow me to toggle quickly over to the overhead and so forth and so forth and so forth. If you wish, let me know. I'll create a little video and show you how I go about doing all that. I don't know if somebody's already done that, but if they haven't, please let me know in the comment section. That would be useful, and I will go ahead and do that. Right. So we are now attempting to start the APU, and momentarily we should see, there it is. Let me bring that light up first. So you can see it. So there's a light, and this would be very similar as the PMDG. You would see this in a very similar situation. We'll just turn on those APU gens. We'll go up over here. Oops. For those that are flying the 777s, you don't, and the in-it-built A350s, you don't have to deal with packs and APU and all that. But in this aircraft, we still need to do. So, you know, typically you would have this set like this, right? And you'd have your isolation valve set to auto, and you'd have that to auto. And this would be bringing cabin cool air into the cabin, heating and cooling into the cabin until we're ready to start. I'll turn my yaw damper on now, because if I don't, I will forget it later. All right, now, there is some lights here that we probably should be turning on. Strobe is on. No, I don't want it off. I want it on. There we go. I guess it's on. Logo, put that on. Okay, so now let's get over to this part here. So for the PMDG guys, you are probably, you know, going to tell your friend who's thinking about buying a PMDG, oh no, we've got flight bags and we've got a PMDG flight bag. Yes, you do. And the Asobo's got this flight bag, which is, for the most part, equally good. Certainly, it doesn't have the failures like the PMDG does, but the average simmer doesn't utilize those, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, comment section. There's maintenance, but again, the average simmer doesn't use the maintenance aspect of it. And for those that aren't aware, there's some maintenance in there that you can decide that, you know, you want to be in charge of making sure that the oils are always topped up, the tires are in good shape, you know, the engines are in good shape, and there's a list of other things in there that you can do. But again, I think the average simmer, myself included, I don't. Now, I do fly airliners a lot. I do fly with a certain level of exacting, but not to that level, okay? So in here, we have all these various different things. This is an app that you put in through SimBrief that allows you to bring flights in this way. So if you don't have this, go to SimBrief, get the app, put it in, and then you will have this icon. Now, having this icon only allows you to directly bring in the SimBrief via this method, but you still can do it here. So we can go here, and we can go here. Just bear with me. It's been a minute since I've done this. We can create the flight plan in here, but we are supposed to be able to well, I use this so frequently that I rarely do it any other way, but I know you're supposed to be able to come into here, and you're supposed to be able to import the flight plan in. But maybe they have changed that. It kind of sort of looks like they have. Oh, I know. I think if I do it here, well, I don't know if this is actually going to do anything more than the other one. Oh, here, import right there. So we can import, load from web, load from files, so you can create a file out of your SimBrief, and so you can do that here. I suspect I can do that here too. I just didn't see it. Yeah, right there it is, right? Okay, so, but I'm not going to use that. You can use that if you choose to. I'm going to use this function here. So this is a tool that you will put into your community folder as I said. You will then put your SimBrief information in. I won't show you where that is, but you can put your SimBrief information in, and you can then get access to the flight plan like this that we had created. And so we just go in here, and I would just click edit. Now you can click a new one and just create it all in here as well, but in this case I'm going to click edit. It's going to go back to SimBrief's website and pull that flight plan in that I just made. There it is. So we are United 1966, Dallas, Phoenix, and there's our max and so forth. So all we do is we hit generate in here. Okay, now, whoops, I want to slide over just a bit there. Okay, so we're going to go here and we're going to hit import route. and there it says import Simbri flight plan, please wait, and it's going to do what it does, and there it is. Now it's imported. Now, if we've done this right, we'll have an execute button right here, which we do, and we will execute that, and we will now have that flight plan brought into the FMC, and it's very similar. A few extra steps actually in PMDG that you need to do, but it's similar that you can bring into your flight plan. All right, so the init page, here we are. We want our zero fuel weight. We'll just click on that, and that gives us our zero fuel weight. These are things that you should take from your flight plan itself, your reserve fuel and so forth and so on. For my case, I'm going to put in 10,000 as reserve right there. And on my cost index, it says my cost index is 12, and I'm getting this from the Simbri flight plan, which is right there, cost index. If you want, we want to see what our cruise altitude and all that is. Well, there's 38,000 feet right there. So let's go ahead and put in 38,000. So 380, and that's 38,000 in the world of aviation. We want to know what our average cruise winds, direction, and winds are. So for that, we're going to use the FMC, or the flight bag, I should say. And we are going to, what are we going to do? We're going to come in here, and we're going to look at view PDF right there, this one. Continue. So that opens up a web browser page like this, and there is the average wind direction and average speed of 62 knots. So 259.62. I moved this view over and I shouldn't have, but anyways, so 259, that's not 2. Let's go 259.062. Boom. There it is. So our limits. Now, the one thing that we are not getting, the one thing we're not getting in here easily, I suspect it is brought to us in here somewhere, and that is, what is our temperature that we're going to use for our derated takeoff? And that's what this right here is. I'm going to just use a generic 45. I'm sure in that flight plan it will tell us what it actually is, but I'm going to use a derated takeoff of 2. For those that don't know what this is to derate the engines, not to have them full send, but to have them slightly less than full send. A, save fuel, B, save noise, and so forth and so on. It's a standard, I think it's a standard thing that probably almost every airliner will tell their pilots, you know, don't be using full send. I mean, unless you're on a really short runway and high altitude, short runway, you know, that sort of stuff where you need to gain speed fast, maybe you would then use a non-derated takeoff. Anyways, or really heavy, that might be another option. Okay, so takeoff. So here is where we want to know what our speeds are. So if we go back here, and we go to performance, here, if we go to populate from last flight, this is the last flight that we've actually configured and set up, right? And then if we hit calculate, and there we are. There are our V speeds and a host of information that you will need as you go through this. And the PMDG provides a very similar, yet different, of course, system, but providing basically all the same information. Okay? So we go back over here and we know that our V speeds are really high. 156. Wow. 61, 67. Okay, very good. Fair enough. That's what it is. So our flaps is 5. It's told us. Our CG, we'll just click on that. It's 31. There's our V speeds. Now, these V speeds don't necessarily line up with those V speeds. So There are anomalies like there is in every one of these things, and this is one of them. One of the ones that I found. I also found that for a person flying in a sim, if you want to use these will work. If you find it necessary to utilize the ones that are pre-calculated for you, you can do that too. Now, I don't know if that other calculation is not using, D-rated takeoff. I'm not sure. Anyways, what is our next step? Oops. What is our next step? We've got this set up. Let's look at our legs. So these are our legs. Let's go to our departure and arrival. And if we look at our departure and arrival, in here we can see edit. There we go. Where's our flight? Right there. We can also see here. I prefer to use this because it's just I can see it, right? So runway 17 right, and our arrival is 26. We're using WestX 2. So let's for this demonstration. So there it is. See, that's what we had. It's utilized that. We'll back out and we'll check our arrival. Our arrival has been selected, which is correct. Now, has it selected the correct runway? Let's just go verify that. 26. Right there's 26. We'll pick 26. It didn't seem to pick that. Now, I'm also given to understand that typically we would not be picking this arrival right now. You'd want to fly out there and validate and verify the weather and make sure that, departures and arrivals and what is the active runway and all those things, if you're flying with that level of exactness. If you're not, then you would go ahead and do what we've just done here, and we would just pick the runway 26 because that's the runway we're planning on coming in on. Okay, so the next is up here. We know that we are going to climb to 38,000 feet, and so just like in any other aircraft, you wind her up. We'll get her up to 38,000. Now, you could, if you were a person that was so inclined to not just wind it up all the way to the max climb altitude that you plan on climbing to, then you could just incrementally climb it. It's just the same, right? I'm going to kind of go over a couple of details that show you the similarities, right? So there's your flight directors, same as any other plane. There's your auto throttle, same in the other plane. There's your VNAV, your LNAV, your localizer, your auto approach, your vertical speed, altitude hold, and all these functions are the exact as they are in the PMDG. There are no different, the PMDG 737s, that is, or any of the other 737s, I might add. But PMDG, in my mind, are the only ones that make any 737s that are worthwhile in 2020. There's a guy that made a 737 in X-Plane or something like that, and it was pretty good. And Zebo, and it was really good. He doesn't have that in here. Anyways, so we'll just crank up our speed. Typically, we go 10 over V2. I think that's what it is. So I'll put it up somewhere in that area. No, we're not going to take off anyways. We can turn on our LNAV, VNAV, lock them in. You may or may not need to do that just yet, but it's done. I don't have to think about that later. So now, what is it that we want to do? Well, we want to look at the overhead. Let's just verify that we've got things set up the way they're supposed to be, because we're getting ready to start this here aeroplane. And so what we're going to do is we're going to turn our circulations. No, we're going to leave those on auto. We're going to turn isolation open. We're going to turn packs off, and we got this already turned on, and that means we're ready for a start. And that is the same process again. That is the same process where either you do a 737 PMDG or you do an Asobo. One thing that should be kept in mind These third-party aircrafts, they are not reinventing the plane. What they're doing is they're giving you features and utilities and functions that people who fly these things to that level of exactness will appreciate. But if you do not use them, why would you pay for them? That's just my take. This aircraft, I mean, I look outside this aircraft, it looks really, really good. I think the textures are really good. This texture I got from flightsim.to. It's a good texture. It looks good. My only beef on it is, and like the PMDG and a lot of other aircrafts, they don't show any wear or usage indication of these aircrafts. They show almost like a brand new, they just came out of the factory, and I wish they didn't do that. I wish there was a livery that showed some wear and stuff like that, so that you could see that the aircraft had been, it's got some hours behind it. Okay. So, what I always do, just before I'm ready to do pushback and start, is I kind of go over the overhead and I kind of look at these columns and I just kind of go down them just to make sure I haven't missed anything, right? So we're going to put our taxi to auto. We're not going to taxi, but we're going to do that anyways. And then we're going to go down here and now we're going to think about starting the aircraft. The starting of the aircraft is little different than the PMDG 737 lineup or any 737 lineup, because they're all 737 lineups. You want to make sure and locate your starter switches, which are right there. These are your starter switches. So ground. I think that's what they refer to as ground. You can change your starter selectors to use the left ignition, the right ignition, or both. I always leave it on both. Down in the comment section, if you know that there's a reason why we do it a certain way, if you know that, go ahead and give me a comment about that. All right, so we got that. We're good there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to come down here, and we're going to see that there's our fuel selection switches. So we know where those are, and they're in the same place. Okay, we've got our APU spinning. So let's start this engine right here. We spin that engine over, and if we look outside, we're going to see that engine right there slowly starting to come to life, or it should be. It appears that it is. It's coming. It's taking some time about it. I'm not sure exactly what the rotation is, but I typically wait for rotation to hit 2 here. When this says, I think this says 2 is what I would set. Let it go, like 1.9. There it is, ish. So I'm going to put the fuel on. Click. And that's going to spin that engine over and dump the fuel in it, and we're going to see that that engine is spinning. Start valve is open. The oil pressure is low, but it's coming. I don't know if you can hear that. Let me try to turn that up just a little bit. We know that it started when the starter switch clicks to off. Then we know it started. There, it's off, right? So now we click that switch over, and let's look back down here again, and we'll watch. We'll see that engine starts to spin right there. It's climbing right there, right? It's this that I look for. I apologize. This is where I wait for 20. I've been flying Airbus a fair bit recently, but yes, this is what I wait to go to 20, and to not this up here. Anyways, we're going to have a good start here in a minute. Two good starts. We'll put the gens on. We'll turn the ground power off. Okay, we'll shut the APU off. We're going to go over here now. We're going to turn on the isolation to auto. We're going to turn the packs on to auto. We're going to turn the APU off. Now that leads us to here. So on the PMDG 737 lineup, unlike the Max, you have to come in here and you have to change this. And you have to say, listen, we're climbing to 38,000 feet. And what is our arriving airport? Oh, let me get that right. So our arriving airport's altitude is... I shouldn't get this anywhere else, because I should get this from here. So our arriving airport, because we have this right here, we have the ability to collect all of the data that we collected, that we can collect elsewhere. So we can go here, and we can go to here, here. Notice our flight plan is in here. So I can go down here and I click on this, and I can click on, what was I looking for? Oh, look, I was looking for runway. Hang on. Runway's right there. And so all of the necessary information that we need is in here. 26, there it is. So there's the heading, there's the elevation, 1,033. So when we go back up here, let me get rid of that. You would typically, in your 737, your PMDG 737, you would go in here and you just set this to 1,033. In this case, probably 1,050. There. Now, because the 737 MAX is slightly different, it has this auto function where I don't believe the PMDG 737-700 anyways doesn't have it. You have to set these. But you still have the same functionality. You just have it set for auto here, so you can say I want to do it automatically, right? Right. So we are pretty much ready to go, and I guess I would typically bring my flaps back to flaps 5, because that's what I said. Oop, not 10, 5. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to go, ready to fly. And we have not spent 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever dollars that are required to be spent to have a plane to do everything that you typically will do with your PMDG. So what is it about the PMDG? Now, some people say that there are flight characteristics. You know, the PMDG flight characteristics are better. I mean, I have a PMDG 737, I fly it. I can't feel and tell the difference, but I'm not an expert pilot. And so if you have that level of knowledge and that level of sense of feeling and so forth, maybe there is a difference, but I don't notice it. Your PMDG 737, 700 anyways, doesn't have this, but this is not a product of a shortcoming on the PMDG aircraft. This is just a product of the MAX compared to the PMDG, or compared to the 737-800. They don't have it, so it's not a shortfall. It's just an aircraft that has this versus that aircraft does not. Right. So we are running. We have configured our flight plan. And we have our flight plan. One other thing I should probably look to and show you. So just like the PMDGs, as you import flight plans in, you will then get these discontinuities. So just like the PMDG version, you can remove them just the same way as you would if you were in a PMDG. And so please don't let somebody, say, well, hey, this is a feature that the PMDG has and the other ones don't have. Well, that's not true. Sadly, we have a lot of YouTubers. I try hard not to be one of them, but I'm not saying I haven't been one of them. But we have a lot of YouTubers that are making statements and claims that aren't necessarily always accurate and true. So please vet everything that I say to you and others. I hope you'll watch my videos and you'll get to realize that I do my level best to make sure that the information I provide is accurate and clear. But I'm not infallible, and I can make mistakes. And if I have made a mistake, I'm more than happy to say, hey, I've given you bad information. So that too in the comment section. If I've ever given you bad information, please go ahead and put that in there. So here we are. I think this concludes the majority of the video. It's kind of gone through and shown exactly what I wanted to show. Now, don't be distracted by the fact that somebody might say to you, if you're when you're sitting here trying to make a decision, that somebody might say, well, yes, but that guy's video didn't show the taxi and didn't show, the takeoff and the toga and all that. That's true or not. There is a screw on the dashboard of the 737 PMDG that has a little button here that is set for toga. I was told that you can set this button here also for toga, so I don't know if there's a function that you can actually set in the sim. For example, can we go here and go settings, controls, toga? Is it toga or togo? Yeah, there we go. So set toga right there. So you could effectively assign whatever button you want. That little screw is not some magical button that only the PMDG has. They've just utilized this. They've just made a preset to say, hey, this is how you do it, right? And so you could set any button you want, any button you have in your sim keyboards on your controllers for toga, and it would just be the same, right? So and then of course the other thing is, yes, what is the landing, what is the Cat 2, Cat 3 approach? Will it do a Cat 2, Cat 3 approach? Some guys are going to say yes, but the PMD has auto land. Well, this one does too. I won't show it to you, but if you require a demonstration of how it works, by all means, comment section. I'm happy to crack it, fire it up again and do a flight and do an auto land and show you the functionality of the auto land. What you're going to see on the auto land is right here when you're configured for auto land. You're going to see flare right here, and that's going to tell you you're going to be auto landing. You do have to have both your autopilots engaged. You do have to have both of your radios set, the frequency set on both of your radios right there. This radio and this radio, they both have to be set to the right frequency. If somebody says, well, yeah, but the PMDG automatically puts in your nav data and that kind of stuff, so that when you come to land, your frequencies and all that are set. Not your nav data. Your hang on, I'm looking for the button here. Oh, what is it called? Not ATC, FMC.com. Well, I don't know where it is now. It's not that. Com? No? There was a button here. I will have to retract my earlier statement because apparently I just not sure. There's a button that you can select to make sure that you're. Oh, sorry. The 737 MAX as well as 737 PMD don't do this. This is a function of like the 747, 787, 777, Airbus A350, 321. They all have a function here where the frequencies are automatically dialed in for you via the flight plan, whereas all of these aircrafts, all of the 737 lineups, those ones you actually have to manually put that data in, as I showed you right there. You have to put that data in here manually. So the descending, it coming to the top of descent and then immediately start coming down and controlling the speed, monitoring the speed via waypoints, altitudes, and all that. This plane does the same thing. So from an enthusiast plus pilot, this plane does everything that I want it to do, and the PMDG 737-700 does not do any more in that plane than this plane does. So that's the question you ask yourself, you new budding pilots. Your friends are talking to you about the PMDG. Should you? It's a personal choice, absolutely. I just put this information out there for you to say to yourself, well, I don't really need to spend that. I can sit on the deck here with my buddy in his PMDG aircraft, and we can take off, and I can fly with the same level of exactness that he does, and he will have spent $50, $60, $70, $80, and you will have not. But if you want to, by all means, go ahead and do it. And I'll make one last pitch. This is not about trying to disparage any of the payware planes, because the vast majority of them are good. And I say vast majority of them because there are a few which I will not name, because this is not it's not what I do. I don't want to disparage anybody. My nature just isn't such. But there are some airplanes out there that I think are not worth 50 cents, let alone $20. And I've bought these ones too, so just so you know. If you want to know, by all means, send me a message on Discord. Make a comment, and I will reply to it in the comment section. Right, Raymond, Stream Gamers, it's been a pleasure talking you through this. I hope you found it useful and insightful. Like, comment, subscribe, all those wonderful things. I appreciate them. As always, don't sweat the little things. The little things will look after themselves. The big things, do what you can. Those things that you can't do anything about, you can't do anything about them. Don't worry about them. And absolutely most important, be kind, be happy, love life, just have fun, and all these wonderful things. Right, Raymond, Stream Gamers. Appreciate y'all. Bye-bye now.